Islam offers people God.
We just represent our religion. We're a walking example.
It's the core of my being.
Islam is a religion between you and God.
If they wonder what Islam means, it's actually peace.
We want to live our lives in peace. We want to go to work. We want to go to school.
Muslims are part of the society now. You cannot separate them. To us, North Carolina is home.
Tahir and Fida Abulawa are a very typical North Carolina family, working, raising children, and living in the suburbs.
I mean, we have a comfortable life, beautiful house, beautiful kids. I have a career that I've never dreamt of. My husband is successful. I mean, what else could I ask for?
The Abulawas say their Islamic faith helps them make it all possible.
Islam is actually a basic way of living, if you think about it. I mean, you open the Quran and it just teaches you how to live your life every day, so you cannot really separate it. You live it every single day of your life.
The Abulawas are among an estimated 26,000 Muslims in North Carolina. That's only about 0.25% of the state's population, but a 30% increase in the number of Muslims in our state in a decade.
We have the freedom of practicing our religion more than back home. So this is one of the reasons that we are here.
The Abulawas immigrated from the Middle East in the late 1980s. They met as students at Wake Tech and got married. Fida went on to NC State.
I was just checking on you. Are you doing okay?
She now works as an MRI technician at UNC hospitals.
I wanted to get involved in healthcare. You know, it's something about helping people and, you know, that connection.
We steam it for 15 minutes.
Tahir went into the restaurant business. He owns the Baba Ganoush Middle Eastern Eatery at Triangle Town Center.
Thank you.
The Abulawas settled in Cary.
It's conservative. It's somewhere where we want to raise our kids.
Their children are 17-year-old Khalid, 13-year-old Noor, and 10-year-old Hamza. Hamza remembers making his first friend in his neighborhood.
We were playing hockey when I first came in, then he smacked me with the ball into my nose. And then right after that, we became friends. I don't know why.
I teach my kids to be part of the society, to interact with their neighbors, with their friends. They go to school here. They learn about the American history. I mean, we're just like anybody else.
Start right here.
Hamza and Noor attended a private K-8 Muslim school in Raleigh. Khalid goes to Holly Springs High School. He says he's one of about 16 Muslims in a school of 2,300 students.
It's tough, but then again, we do fit in. We're not that much different. We're normal students in the classroom.
Raising a kids in America in general is a challenge. And I think it's more challenge to raise a Muslim kid in America.
Like everything was ahead of schedule.
Rules like not being able to date or eat pork are a challenge, and so are the questions.
Sometimes they get asked, where are you from? And they're like, we're from here. And no, really, where are you from? And, you know, people don't get it. Like, we're from here.
Here you go.
No one really cared much about the Abulawas being Muslim until 9/11.
Oh my God, another plane has just hit. It hit another building, flew right into the middle of it.
We immediately became suspects as soon as 9/11 happened, all of us. We felt like our religion, our beliefs, our culture was questioned. Like, you know, why do you believe that way? Why do you pray 5 times a day? Why do you act this way? And I felt like it wasn't anybody's business. You know, I don't go ask my neighbor, why do you go to church on Sunday?
You do have people who give you the comments like terrorist and what are you doing here?
These looks, these stirs, and some comments like go home,
Go back home
terrorist,
or something.
and I will stop them. I was like, you need to talk to me. Come here, meet me, talk to me, know me, get to know me before you judge me. I had nothing to do with whatever happened on September 11. Don't group me, don't label me, it's not right.
That happened to Fida soon after the attacks while shopping with her son Khalid, who was just 6 years old.
And I had to explain to him, why she told me go home, because for him, this is home.
Kwasi Mohammed Nafis claimed to have connections to Al-Qaeda.
The Abalawas and many local Muslims say every time Islamic extremists end up in the news, it fuels people's suspicions.
Hossam Smadi tried to detonate what he believed Amin al-Khalifi walked towards the U.S. Capitol. Nafi Adel Daoud was charged with trying to detonate what he believed.
What they see on TV is only negative about Muslims and Islam. You say I'm Muslim, it's like you're saying I'm terrorist. And that's the misconception. People are not taking the time to learn or educate themselves about Islam.
Next, why that may be breeding what some call Islamophobia.
There are still many people out there who don't understand who we are.
And there, as you can see, perhaps the second tower, the front tower, the top portion of which is collapsing. Good Lord.
9/11 changed life for Americans, especially Muslim Americans.
Because I'm a woman who grew up in the Middle East, but wasn't Muslim.
Janan Reed is of Libyan descent and is a Christian. She is also an Islamic studies scholar at Duke. She says before 9/11, Muslims were generally thought of as well-educated contributors to American society.
They were our doctor, they were our lawyer, they were our local favorite food chain, restaurant, whatever it was they were. You might have known they were Muslim, but even if you did, you didn't care.
The worst terrorist attack in the history of this country.
Reed says 9/11 made people care and put Muslim Americans on the defensive. She says the news media's continued focus on the violence of Islamic extremists fuels anti-Muslim sentiment.
It's horrific. I mean, it is devastating. And I can tell you, all of my Muslim friends it's heartbreaking for them.
Persian philosopher Mullah Sadra.
University of North Carolina religion professor Carl Ernst shares Reed's sentiments. Ernst caused controversy in 2002 when he suggested a book containing passages from the Quran be required reading for incoming freshmen in Chapel Hill. He's working on a new book called Islamophobia in America, The Anatomy of Intolerance.
We have to deal with this as an issue of prejudice, which means judging people before you actually have any experience of them. And we have a history of anti-Semitism in this country as well as racial prejudice. We just have to acknowledge that. And anti-Islamic prejudice plays into the same mentalities and appeals to some of the same interests.
Experts say that prejudice is more prevalent in the South.
But the irony to me is that the South is also a place where people hold moral values that are in line with the majority of Muslim moral values in terms of attitudes on the family and abortion and gay rights and immigration.
In Murfreesboro, Tennessee, anti-Islamic prejudice inspired a lawsuit, vandalism, arson, and bomb threats, all designed to block construction of a mosque by Muslims who have lived in the community for years.
We feel that this message is that important.
In Gainesville, Florida, Pastor Terry Jones is famous for preaching against Islam and burning the Quran. His actions inspired violent protests in the Middle East, and he's endorsed the anti-Islamic YouTube video that inspired protests here, too. In North Carolina, the Southern Poverty Law Center has identified one anti-Islamic group called the Christian Phalange. It's based in Newton. Its website calls Islam the enemy of Western civilization and says, like it or not, the United States is a Christian country. It pictures a man named Patricio Bridges as its national director and founder. 2 phone numbers we found for Bridges were out of service. A Google profile lists his employer as Griffiths Security in Hickory. The company says he no longer works there. The Christian Phalange's only listed contact information is a Newton post office box. We found Bridges' home address in Newton and rang his doorbell, but there was no answer. Bridges' next-door neighbor in his duplex apartment told us he was home, but is a recluse who would not answer the door.
He never answers his door.
The window on Bridges' door is covered with a Confederate battle flag. A sign on it says anyone coming through the door would be killed.
The growing radicalism is actually coming from the far right since Obama has been president.
Jabril Huff is the spokesperson for the Islamic Center in his hometown of Charlotte. He converted from Christianity to Islam in 1991. He says he's faced discrimination as a Muslim, including harassment on the job.
There were people in management who told me I might be living in the wrong country.
Harassment also came in the form of a letter sent to his mosque in April. It went to other mosques in the state, too. The letter repeatedly uses the N-word to refer to Muslims with modifiers like sand and jungle.
I said, this is a page right out of the Klan's playbook.
The letter states Islam is purely evil and needs to be scrubbed from the face of the earth. It accuses the Prophet Muhammad of being an evil mental case and a pedophile. It spells prophet P-R-O-F-I-T. The writer claims to be a part of a group vowing to suppress Muslims and claims to have no problem killing Muslims legally if they try to retaliate.
It was clearly an open threat.
Huff reported the letter to the police and the FBI. The letter bears the signature of a woman who claims to have no involvement. There have been no arrests in the case. We contacted the FBI and it followed its standard protocol. The Bureau wouldn't say whether it's even investigating the threat and declined to talk with us about how it even handles such cases. Huff is disappointed the FBI or police haven't arrested anyone and that he's heard no more from them. He feels like his congregation is on its own.
We're more vigilant, we're more aware of what's going on, and we are keeping our eyes and ears open.
Huff says the letters reveal the same kind of hatred blacks faced during the civil rights movement.
I think it's ignorance, it's fear, it's the fear of a changing America.
Nasik Majid agrees. He's a Raleigh native who grew up during the days of racial segregation.
And we can look back and say, how stupid, relatively to where we've progressed to today.
Majid progressed pretty far himself. After graduating from Ligon High School, he earned a bachelor's and master's degrees from North Carolina A&T. He then served his country in Vietnam as a decorated combat pilot flying B-52 bombers.
It's quite an education being shot at.
Majid became a businessman in Charlotte and served 4 terms on the Charlotte City Council.
We'll be sending the wrong signal. I always made my oath on the Quran.
That's because Majid, who was born Clarence Hayes, converted to Islam after the war.
It's the core of my being.
Islam is the second largest religion in the world next to Christianity. Islam, Christianity, and Judaism are known as Abrahamic religions because they all trace their origin back to the Hebrew Bible and its stated covenant between God and the prophet Abraham. Muslims see Jesus and Moses as forefathers to Islam and its prophet Muhammad.
Jews and Christians have not officially recognized Muhammad as a prophet, so that's where the basic difference lies.
There are a few differences in how Muslims see God and Jesus, but most of the core principles and how people should conduct their lives in all 3 religions are the same.
Muslims obviously have a code of conduct, which is very much in line with many of the other Abrahamic faiths.
What are our hearts like?
The code includes respecting other religions, doing good for others, and forbids killing others except in self-defense.
It says if you harm one, it's like you harm the whole humanity. And if you save the life of one, it's like you save the life of the whole humanity.
But the recent convictions of 7 Raleigh area Muslims for plotting terrorist attacks raises doubts among some of the non-Muslims.
The radicalization of Muslims here in our own country is a very serious threat.
Not only is it a setback for us in our work reaching out to the community beyond the Muslim community, but it's a setback for us as a community because we feel fractured.
Fractured because some local Muslims want nothing to do with the convicted men, while others question their guilt.
I truly believe in my heart that he is innocent. They set him up.
But all of them know the impact of the media attention.
They feel like they are under a microscope, which does not apply to almost any other group of people in the world. And it's tough.
Haisin Sharifi is acting as his own attorney, but the judge said he lapsed into preaching.
Haisin Sharifi made it tougher. A federal jury convicted him in a related plot to kill federal witnesses in the Raleigh terror case.
He says, I represent Allah. We are enemies, not friends, until you worship Allah alone.
Sharifi read religious verses in Arabic and said he was fighting for Allah just before a jury convicted him. Allah is the Arabic word for God.
Everyone uses rhetorical justifications to make their objectives sound more honorable.
The Ku Klux Klan did the same thing. It often cloaked itself in God and Christianity, even though it committed bombings and lynchings.
But it's nothing Christian about that.
And Muslims like Majid say there's nothing Islamic about people committing terrorism in the name of Islam.
And then all you have to have is 1 or 2 crazy people, and that's exactly how I characterize them, to ruin it for everybody else.
They don't understand what's the real meaning of Islam.
They twist everything for their own benefits, like any other extremist in any other religion or any other country.
X is negative 3.
A concept that even Fida and Tahir's 13-year-old daughter understands.
You know, people do things, and it's not because of their religion. It's because of who they are. And if they're not good people, it's not their religion that made them a bad person. It's themselves, and maybe it's what they grew up with. But it's not the religion that made them a bad person.
What I know from research is that the violent extremists are the least knowledgeable about Islam. They know the least about the religion. They don't really know much about it at all.
Reed and other experts say it's important to consider the numbers. There are an estimated 2.6 million Muslims in the U.S. Since 9/11, only 200 have been arrested in connection with terror plots.
And for the most part, a vast majority of those 200 people have been arrested before they could even get to the later stages of their plots.
I think that most Muslims who adhere to an ethical version of their understanding of Islam are horrified. In fact, we know from the statistics that the vast majority of Muslims do not approve of extremist tactics.
What kind of Muslim are we?
Many local Muslims say understanding that is the first step to understanding them.
Read about Islam. Know more about Muslims.
His name himself is Allah.
Next, how some Muslims are reaching out so others can know and understand them.
People need to know us before they judge us.
If you want to watch this documentary again, or learn more about it and Muslims in North Carolina, go to WRAL.com and type WRAL Doc in the search box.
And who is Allah? Very quickly now, okay? Allah is an Arabic word used for God.
Fiaz Fareed is speaking to a group visiting the Raleigh Islamic Center. He says he tries to teach people about Muslims and Islam almost every day.
So that was the Quran. And as it was revealed...
Fareed is the outreach coordinator for the Islamic Association of Raleigh. He regularly speaks to groups that come to visit its mosques. He's also a member of the Triangle Interfaith Alliance, and he worked with a group called Uniting NC on a billboard campaign to promote religious and racial tolerance.
If I can make one person understand, I think I'm successful.
Fiaz works as a nuclear radiology tech at Wake Med Hospital. He says he chose the healthcare field because helping people is one of the tenets of his Muslim faith.
In fact, one of my elderly lady who I worked with said, "You know what? You are really a good Christian." I said, "Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it."
Fiyaz and his wife Muhib were born in India. Muhib teaches at a local Muslim school. She too wants people to understand Muslims.
Bye. See you tomorrow, inshallah. Muslims are very friendly and, very open-minded and, very respectful people.
Muhib and Fiyaz say when they first moved to Raleigh, they introduced themselves to their neighbors.
You are not a believer if your neighbor is in the fear of your mischief or your misconduct.
Fiyaz says many of his non-Muslim neighbors have become close friends.
The American experiment of religious freedom has brought luster to the country, and I really feel that.
Our Muslim population, for the most part, they came here to pursue the American dream, just like other immigrants before them. They are here living peacefully, respecting other religions with tolerance and just kind of the American way.
I think that when most Americans discover that they have Muslim neighbors whom they get to know as human beings, they discover that, surprise, they're not raving terrorists or lunatics, and the women are actually quite interesting and have something to say about themselves.
People need to know us before they judge us. Come talk to me. Come ask me questions. Come meet my kids. Come into my house. Let's have some lunch together. Let's have some dinner together.
Allahu Akbar.
We're not going to separate ourselves from the society. We're active people here, and we live in this society. We are part of it. We're not going to go anywhere. We're here.
This is our home now. It's not. There's nowhere else to go. Islam is our religion. North Carolina is our hometown. That's how we look at it.